Hello, 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 and good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Life with Shenita talk show. I will be your host this evening, filling in for the amazing, talented young lady, Miss Shenita Connolly. I am looking forward to introducing you all to a spectacular panel of men that are going to share something, you all, that is so important to our community, so important to men. Yes, the men have taken over the talk show tonight. We got some things to say. We got some things to be heard. So I want to let you all know that tonight's topic is the 411 of prostate cancer. I'm going to introduce some of our guests in just a minute. And I want to let you all know that the Life with Shenita movement, her LLC, started with an ultimate goal to help people overcome life's challenges and to encourage them to live a vibrant life. So I'm going to bring in our first guest, Mr. Wendell.
Hello, everybody. My name is
What's
Wendell.
going on?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Wendell, do me a favor. I'm going to bring in one other gentleman. Then I'm going to have you all introduce yourselves. Hold on for me real sec. One
Is
second.
it Bernard, my buddy?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
hi.
Yes,
How is
sir.
everybody doing?
What's going on, gentlemen? Good to see you again.
Good
Likewise.
to be here.
Hey, so before we kick off this show, you guys, I'd like you to take a minute to go ahead and introduce yourselves to our audience. Mr. Wendell, why don't you go first?
I am and always will be Wendell Limitless Hollins. I am the owner and influencer for Limitless Hollins LLC, doing all types of voice productions. I am also currently looking for any type of job opportunities in senior project management, specializing in government and or telecommunications or Oracle AI. That's who I am, the proud husband of Denise Warner, 5 kids, 8 grandkids, and two times. It liked me so much I invited it back. Two-time prostate cancer survivor.
Come on, y'all. 2 times cancer survivor. That's what we're talking about. God is good.
All
God
the
is
time.
good. Mr. Bernard, would you mind taking a few minutes and introducing yourself to our audience?
Yeah, Bernard Shaw is my name, and I lost both of my parents to cancer, different types of cancer. And since their demise, and since then, I have actually done a lot in the healthcare arena. I was the first African American hired in the nation as an operating room spine specialist. That was back in '95. And I also sold medical equipment, so I'm inside the OR doing procedures, and I've seen a lot over the years. So I read a lot, I share what I know, and I'll admit if I don't know something and do whatever I can to help others.
Amen. Amen. And thank you for your time this evening, Mr. Shaw. We also have one more special guest on here, Mr. Charlie. You all, this young man is actually on the road traveling right now, pulled over. He's taking a few minutes to share his story with us. Mr. Charlie, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Charlie, would you mind go ahead and introducing our audience to yourself?
All right. I am Charlie James, and as was stated, I am out of town visiting with my sister who was recently diagnosed with cancer. So I'm here with her. But this topic is so important, I wanted to make sure that I tried to get on today. I am a prostate cancer survivor, and I am a breast cancer survivor. So two things are dear to my heart because since my diagnosis, I go out and do and try to educate, especially our men, to make sure that they get tested and everything. So I'm just basically here to support and am available. Have shared my telephone number. If anyone wants to ever call me and talk, I am available.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Charlie. I appreciate your time as well. So, gentlemen, we're discussing a very serious topic this evening, and that is the topic of prostate cancer. Not only as a disease that's very prevalent in society, but it's also especially prevalent in the community of the Black community. So what we wanted to do tonight, you all, is kind of have some dialogue for you all to share your story, share some of the experience that you've gone through, and then some words of advice that we can have at the end of this conversation, you all. You know what we want to do? We want to break through some of those walls that's stopping men from going to get tested. It's stopping those men from having that fear of going to a doctor and finding out what's going on, just regularly getting themselves checked out. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start off this conversation um, with Bernard. Bernard, if you don't mind, because I believe when you mentioned something earlier about your parents, would you mind sharing a little bit of the story about your experience with cancer and your parents?
Yes, my mother passed away from breast cancer, and this was quite a few years ago. And the treatments available then have changed significantly now. My father died of esophageal cancer, which is probably impacted by his time in Vietnam. He was over there for 2 full years in the jungle when they were using Agent Orange, and esophageal cancer was a common affliction of a lot of soldiers who were in the woods. Now, as they were going through their treatments at that time, chemo was not as advanced as it is now back then. And so they went to the surgery. My mother had a double mastectomy, which, prolonged her life, from what I understand, a few years, but she finally succumbed to that. So me knowing I have two parents who've had cancer indicates there's a genetic predisposition that I can develop cancer if I give it the environment to do so. So I focus on an anti-cancer diet. I focus on, nutrition. I focus on getting adequate sleep. I focus on reducing stress when I can, and I focus on sharing with other people what I've learned through that. So that journey is going to be a little different for everybody, but cancer can afflict anybody, anytime.
Thank you for sharing, Bernard. So let me ask you something, Bernard, because you've dealt with this multiple times. When it comes to some of the things that you believe can help someone prevent or not be so exposed to cancer, what would you say one of those things is? Because we hear about diet a lot. Would you say it's, you are what you eat? What would you say about that?
Yes, you are what you eat. However, and I want to be really basic here. The stronger your body is and the stronger your immune system is, the more likely you are to stave off cancer growth. And I tell people, here's something real simple called sleep hygiene. All that means is you set a certain time that you go to sleep every night, and you set a certain time that you wake up. In between that let's say 7 to 8 hours of sleep, because you have what's called a circadian rhythm. When you go to sleep one night at 11 o'clock, you go to sleep one night at, let's say, 8 o'clock, you go to sleep one night at 1 a.m. What happens is that upsets your circadian rhythm, and that circadian rhythm is what allows your body to do the cleaning, the healing, try to remove some of those amyloid plaques in your brain so you won't develop Alzheimer's. And if you're not giving it that rhythm, it doesn't know when to do those particular functions. So, and that's easy to do. And you got to do it 7 days a week, not just Monday through Friday. And it's not easy. I'm almost there, but I know that's something that works. It doesn't cost any money, and it will help me out overall and anybody else overall as far as health. Now, let's look at diet, which is also a part of it. There are two things that science has proven beyond any doubt that we ingest that cause cancer. Number one, processed meat, bacon, sausage. Processed meat causes cancer. That's not in debate. It's been proven. The other one is alcohol. I don't care if it's just a beer. It's still alcohol. That has been proven to be a carcinogenic item that we ingest. So I'm not saying somebody who's got habits, and we all have habits of doing A, B, C, and D. Think about those as a way to kind of cut down your cancer risk. And also, we're talking about exercise. You have to give your body exercise. If you don't give your body exercise, you're not increasing blood flow to keep those capillaries open. That's all across your body, including your man parts. Okay. So getting exercise on a regular basis. And what's most important is consistency. It's not going out there one day and spending 2 hours and you're just so exhausted. It's about consistency. Just start walking consistently. That's what's going to help you stave off cancer.
I appreciate that. Bernard, you said something earlier and you were talking about the processed meat, right? And
Yes,
I think about how many fast food restaurants, how many fast food chains we see, especially in lower income
yes.
communities and lower middle class communities. There's always the churches, there's always a McDonald's, there's always a Wendy's, there's always a Burger King, there's always a chicken place, there's always a Chinese place. So what you're also letting me know is that letting our audience know is that these companies that are pouring all this food that they know creates cancer. We all know there's always a liquor store in the community, right? So the
Absolutely.
very things that are increasing our rates of getting cancer,
Hmm.
these companies are basically contributing to that. But we have to be disciplined enough to understand we don't have to partake of it all the time.
Nicely put. Yes, I agree.
And let me ask you this because I've heard about sugar also being a big influencer when it comes to something like cancer. Can you expand on that?
There is some research out there that has its contributors. It's complicated. The key thing that sugar causes your arteries to harden. When your arteries harden, they can't expand when you need additional blood flow to climb up a flight of stairs or to run somewhere, or, in case of men, you need blood flow, it's about that time. So sugar in and of itself can have a negative effect on your ability to function, number one. Number two, it's going to harden all the arteries in your body. It's not specific, it just hardens everything. And so your body loses the capacity to get extra oxygenated blood to where you need it. And when you reduce some of the blood flow to certain areas of the body, guess what happens? They become ripe for cancerous and other infections.
Mm, mm. I see, brother. Well, thank you so much, brother Shaw. I'm gonna turn it over now. I gotta ask this young man, Mr. Wendell, a few questions. He is a two-time prostate cancer survivor. Two-time, not once, but twice. And we talked about this earlier this evening. So, Bernard, I mean, Wendell, what I'd like to do, I'd like to know a little bit about the background. Like when you were diagnosed the first time, what type of lifestyle did you have? How old were you when you were diagnosed the first time?
Well, this is what 2025. First diagnosed in 2020, 2015. So that's 10 years ago. So I was 57 years old. And the interesting thing is, um, what hit me the hardest wasn't finding out through a biopsy that I have prostate cancer. What hit me the hardest, Cornell, was when my PSA had shot up. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. But that was 10 years ago and I'm still here. So that's what hit me the hardest because I really did. I didn't know that much about it, but it caused me to research it. And knowledge is power. And the more I learned about it, the more comfortable I got with it. Not that I enjoyed going through the journey not once but twice, but understanding it was powerful. And that's why I
Mr.
love being on these type of shows.
Mr. Wendell, would you mind explaining to our audience what PSA is that you were talking about?
The PSA is an acronym for prostate specific antigen. And the beauty of it is, man, when you're going for your annual physical, and when they draw blood, you don't have to draw any additional blood. Just have them check your PSA. If your PSA is elevated, it's not saying that you have prostate cancer. There's other reasons your PSA can be elevated. However, it is an indication that you have it. So the next step will be a biopsy where they actually lay inside and they go up your backside with what I affectionately call a giant set of staplers. They pull out pieces of your prostate and they test it. And if it's positive, then you have your alternative to decide on. Did that address your question, Cornell?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're diagnosed with it 10 years ago. What, if you don't mind me asking, or if you don't mind sharing, what is the typical protocol when it comes to healing? Getting better. Is it just a surgery? Are they encouraging stuff with your diet and exercise? What do they normally give for you to heal and get better after a diagnosis like that?
Can I divert for a little bit because you were asking what do they give me? To me, the key thing is between your left ear and your right ear, Cornell.
Mhm.
It's your mindset. and how you're going to deal with it. That's the difference for me. And I can speak from my personal experience. And after I got my mind right, oh, I'm not going to die. What are my alternatives? Then I started researching and I chose what I wanted to do. Now, when it came back again, I'm like, crap. Really, I didn't say crap. I said another word, but say crap for the show's purpose. But I dealt with it. And here I am 10 years after my first diagnosis. And guess what? I'm still here. I'm still happy. I'm still spokesmodel for prostate cancer awareness. I used to have a prostate cancer awareness podcast, but I'll get started back next year. To raise Americans, because my key word is get checked. GETCHECKED. Get checked, because that's why it disproportionately affects, my opinion, more black men than other races. Because when I was growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, a quote unquote strong man didn't talk how he felt, didn't go to the doctor. Hey, if your arm fall off, hey, grab some duct tape, wrap that sucker up and go back to work. And all that was delaying the inevitable, because all of you know, by the time prostate cancer shows up symptoms in your body, it's been there a long time. Your options are a lot smaller. So GETCHECKET, get checked. Both times mine was diagnosed through my annual physical. I had absolutely no symptoms, zero.
So that brings me to another question for all three of you gentlemen to chime in. Why is it that you all believe, and I'd like each one of you to respond, why do you believe it's so complicated for men to go get a regular checkup? Because we hear women all the time getting their annuals, getting their annuals, getting their annuals. So why do you all think that it's a problem for men to do it? And then I want to ask you to also share with you, why is it specifically for black men? Why is it so hard for us to go on a regular basis to see the doctor? We'll start with Mr. Charlie. If you don't mind, I'd like to start off with you, sir.
That's a very good question, because in my talks with men, that's one of the key things that and there might be several reasons for it, but to be honest with you, I think a lot of it is just fear. Men think that we are strong, but when I talk to a lot of men, the first thing they say, well, I really don't want to know if I have anything wrong with me. And so they put it off, not going in. And when I'm talking to them, I say, well, why is it that you don't want to know? Is it, well, and many times they don't have an answer for it, which again, that I say, it stems from being afraid. The hardest thing is sometimes to get them to see, well, early diagnosis. If you have an early diagnosis, your chances of survival are increased greatly. But and I'm interested to hear from the other men too, because again, from talking to men, I can use all the information I can, uh, tools to use to make sure men get checked. And even when they do go to the doctor, the biggest, strongest men sometimes can be so aggressive about things, but when they go to the doctor, I'm just going to say, we become wimps. We don't speak up for ourselves. We don't ask questions. And a lot of time, the men leave it to the women in order to schedule their appointment and to even go with them when they have an appointment. So part of my answer is, it's fear.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Bernard, would you like to go next, sir?
Yes, I think it's fear. I think it's people, black men. We think that when you have prostate cancer, that's going to mean that you will have no more sexual function. And that's one of the things that you always hear. They always, oh man, I don't want to get that, man, because hey, I do that, man, I ain't going to be able to take care of business. And they don't realize it does not automatically mean that you will no longer have sexual function. But they're not hearing that side of the story. They're just hearing that, oh man, they got to go in, the surgery's involved, and I ain't gonna be able to, perform, take care of my business. And like I said, that's not always the case. And number two, they don't realize that if that cancer spreads or metastasizes to other parts of the body, they can die. So I guess the question is, do you want to die, or are you worried about what might happen? I would tend to tell people you need to worry about being here first, because you ain't here, ain't nothing else gonna happen. And number two is a lot of misinformation in the African American community about the types of treatments that are available today and the diagnostic tools that are available in addition to the PSA. You know, earlier, as Wendell said, hey, the PSA is a marker, prostate specific antigen marker that lets us know, we probably need to do some more investigations, whether that involves a biopsy or some of the newer technologies that are available to us. And they need to also understand that I remember back in the mid 90s, the Da Vinci surgical, I'm gonna call it robot system came out that allowed a prostatectomy, you know, removing the prostate to be done, and a nerve sparing technique where they can separate the nerves that encircle the prostate to allow the patient to still have, you know, erectile function. And see, that's not getting out. All you heard about, oh man, I had prostate, and you know, and this is wrong and that's wrong. I remember Dr. Bridges a couple of years ago said, if you don't have any ED coming to him initially, then it's quite likely 95% you're not going to have it after. But he said a lot of times people use that as an excuse as to, oh man, I can't do what I used to do because I had. And he said, in most cases, if you don't have that problem going into it, you're not going to have that problem coming out of it. So it's just misinformation. And the more we know, the better decisions we can make. And I'm glad we have this program here to share information.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shaw. While you were speaking, this question came to my mind, and I'm going to ask this and ask Mr. Wendell to comment on it first. Do you all feel, or would you agree, that Black men could possibly feel, if they're diagnosed with something, any sickness like this, or cancer, that it attacks their masculinity?
Yes.
Mr. Wendell?
Yes. You said possibly because there are no absolutes, okay? So all my comments are based on possibly, right? Let's keep it real personal. I've had several men, more than two, tell me literally that I don't want to get checked for prostate cancer awareness because it will affect my sexual functionality. And my saying is, hey, if it spreads, you're dead. So if you think your sexual functionality is going to affect you now as a Black man,
Right.
hey, you put a popsicle stick on your penis, it ain't going to help you if you're dead. All right. And I use humor to communicate with me, but it's a serious subject. So get checked. So yes, there is that stigma. Also, it's associated to how you grew up. When I was growing up, a quote unquote strong Black man didn't share how he felt, kept all his feelings in, didn't go to the doctor, right? And so there's that concept, and not supposed to cry. So a lot of these things we've got to look within ourselves, and like Bernard said, for our sexual functionality, 90% of it you're still good. But and Bernard, you keep me honest, right? But I believe that sometimes people don't function because it's psychological. It's not physical. Hey, I got prostate cancer, therefore I can't get an erection. Sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. But sometimes the mind is very, very powerful. So Bernard, I need to need you to guide me and see if I'm on the right path, sir.
I agree. There's a psychological component to it, and I agree.
Yeah, and again, from what both of you all are saying, from this conversation, just in the first 30 minutes, here's what we're hearing. Black men have this fear of not being masculine and not wanting to go get checked out. And Black men also have this fear of not being able to function sexually that's preventing them from checking out, from getting checked up. So now what do we do as Black men to get through to more Black men about getting checked out without them feeling like it's scare tactics? Like, this is real life.
Yeah, if I can say, number one, work closely with your urologist. Number one, understand your condition. In a lot of cases, for maladies that affect the body, there's more than one cure or more than one way to address it. Just because you have prostate cancer does not mean automatically that you have to have a prostatectomy where they take the prostate out. There's several different things that can be done. That's where you, if you work with your healthcare provider, can determine what's right for you. But it doesn't mean you have to have prostatectomy. And keep in mind that in the old days, they did a prostatectomy. They just. And I've been in surgeries. I've seen prostatectomies, radical prostatectomies done. They just remove it in totality. But now they have a nerve sparing technique that they can separate the nerves that encircle the prostate, so allow the man to still have erectile function. And see, that part's not getting out. All you hear about, oh man, I had my prostate removed and it ain't what I used to be. And again, there are all kinds of treatments available. And that's where your relationship with your healthcare provider is critical to choose what's best for you.
Amen. Mr.
And
Charlie.
and I want to chime in too is communication. Communicate with your spouse. Talk about the things that might be troubling you. Talk about, uh, and again, get adventurous. You can't maybe do the same things that you always did. Find something else to do. And again, when I'm talking to men too, is that's one of the key things is that, and you asked the question, what can we do? What we are doing now, and again, those of us who have prostate cancer, is make it a point that when we talk to other men, when we talk to younger men, just start talking because uh, sometimes when I'm talking to a person who just found out they had prostate cancer, they can't even say it loud when they talk to you. I have got prostate cancer, and so as we are talking about, we have to just keep talking, keep getting the information out whenever we have opportunities like this or at our churches or different things in the community to make sure that this is something that we talk about.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'd like
Excellent.
to add to that what Charlie said. SOS, share our stories, right?
Mhm.
We've all gone through it, and people have what I affectionately call barbershop medicine. You know, you get your hair cut, and people are chiming in about, hey, if you drink bleach, you'll clear prostate cancer, or if you eat oatmeal on the third Tuesday while mixing in with collard greens, you won't get prostate cancer. There's all this stuff out there that people will believe is true, but we can share our stories on what worked. That's why I appreciate Shenita and you, Cornell, having these types of forums so we can share our stories to eliminate the stigma and we can laugh about it. And my podcast, I used to call the title of my podcast was Prostate Cancer and Fun. Bernard's been on it several times. He's actually been my co-host several times, right? And you got to
I enjoy it.
eliminate this, right? Get it
Oh
out of
yeah.
the darkness, right? And talk about it.
Mhm.
Just talk. They got all kind of treatments, for your manhood. I mean, they got pills, they've got injections, they got implants, right? With like a button inside your testicle where you just pump it up, and when you finish sexually, just pump it down. So there's all kind of options, right?
I might
And
pass
I
it
mean,
almost.
worst case scenario, I mean, if your man is defined in your lower brain as opposed to your upper brain, you got other problems, if you know what I
Mhm.
mean.
Mhm. If I can just mention one thing too.
Yes,
When
sir.
I was married, my wife's passed away, but she encouraged me to get a colonoscopy. I said, I have no symptoms. I said, why do I need it? She said, you need to get one done. So I had it done. They didn't find anything, but sometimes we need the ladies in our lives to
Mhm.
encourage us to get tested, check it out, because sometimes we're stubborn, don't want to do it. So, if there are ladies listening and you have a man in your life, and it got to be your husband, just, hey, you may want to check into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you all one of the things that I was talking to Shanita about prior to this planning this call was as as a life insurance agent, I see families not able to get covered because they've been diagnosed with something, right? But and one of the things I've also noticed is some people don't even know they have anything until they go to the doctor, right? And at
Mhm.
that point, it's too late. So I know some of you have been diagnosed with it. Some of you have had parents that passed from it. So I want to ask, and this is coming from an insurance agent, for those of you that lost your mom and dad, I believe that was is
Yes.
that when what Bernard?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this: your parents passed relatively young. I believe you said 51 and 48. Did
Correct.
they have life insurance in force prior to them passing?
My father did, but not my mother. My dad had just that basic military insurance because he retired, but he had insurance, but my mom didn't have any insurance on her. So, and I'm kind of going way back here, but I used to sell cemetery plots back in the day,
Mhm.
and I
Yep.
know that when you go into a household, men do not want to talk about death. The women are the one that are going to talk about death. It's just interesting that that dynamic was pretty widespread. You talk about, men don't want to talk about it because the wives know that they're going to be predeceased by their husband, and that impacts that whole discussion. So,
Mhm.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this, Bernard. Why do you think your father had it, but your mother didn't?
that's a good question. I had never considered that. My mom did not work, so he was a primary wage earner. And it's a very traditional family. We grew up. I had one older sister, one older brother. Had a great childhood. But I think it was my dad didn't want my mom to work, so he was the primary the only breadwinner. So while he was alive, we got it on him because that's where all the money was coming from.
Mhm. Got it. Got it. Wendell.
Yes, sir.
So, tell me if you don't mind sharing. Did you have life insurance at all before the diagnosis? Did you have you tried to get it afterwards? What role has or has not or hasn't has life insurance played in your life right now?
Yes, I had life insurance, and it's key. And Cornell, like you and I talked about before, outside of prostate cancer awareness, it's important to plan your final affairs, like call it life insurance for a reason, because it's very hard to get a policy after you're dead. All right, so you got to plan
Absolutely.
ahead of time and have those hard discussions. Male, male, female, whatever. It's important to have life insurance because when you die, you may put in everything that you want done, but you can't overrule anybody's decision. So you got life insurance for a reason and for a purpose, and that way you have some influence on it. And also, when you die, you don't want to be burden on other people. You want to have money in place so that you can be put in the ground within a reasonable time limit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Charlie?
Yes, both of my parents had insurance, and I have insurance, and my sisters and brothers all, because we saw our parents, especially my mother. And I am 77, and so if you figure the age of my mother is that I lived in a time where, if some of you might remember, in the black neighborhoods, these insurance men would come around every week or every other week or every month. My mother always had insurance, and so we
The
grew up
debit
knowing
man.
that. And my bro- my brother was a minister, and while he was the pastor of the church, constantly he had to have this congregation with members in the church, because it was like they thought if they passed, the church was going to take care of burying them.
Mhm.
And so the people that just relied on them, and now you see people GoFundMe in order to pay for burial expenses. Because in a lot of cases, people say, "Well, I don't have money for it," and so they don't look at it as being important.
Mhm. You know, it's interesting and why I wanted to ask you all that because number one, I think you all would agree, nobody knows they're gonna get cancer before they
Mhm.
get cancer.
Mhm.
And what I'll share with you is from the moment that somebody gets that diagnosis, they automatically are declined by 90% of the carriers.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And then what happens is by the time they can get approved, the price is so much that now we don't want to pay a bunch of money for a little bit of coverage. So, how important would you all say it is? And I'm going to ask this question next. How important would you all say it is for people to get checked and to get life insurance early before they run into a situation where they have, because people are getting cancer, heart attacks, strokes, they're in their 20s. And most people in their 20s are like they're invincible. So how important would you all say it is that people need to look into this when they're younger, when they're healthier, so that when something like this happens, when you get this diagnosis, you can still have something available for your family that can take care of them and maintain their quality of life. Either one of you can jump on first.
I would say most people are motivated by fear of loss versus potential for gain. And if you present a scenario where someone has lost or passed away unexpectedly, and it presented a significant burden to those who survived that individual and what they went through, to give this person who's only thinking about, no, no, I got to pay another bill and I feel good, I don't feel anything's wrong with me, you know. But again, people are motivated more by fear of loss than potential for gain. So I would approach it from that perspective. Given an example of someone who passed away, did not have life insurance, and the stress and the burden that became on their survivors and what they had to go through, like, you know, they may have lost their house, they may have had to downgrade their living, they may have to do a lot of different things. So I think if you present that first and then talk about, would you want to put this on your wife and your family?
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Wendell.
Yeah, for me, it's everybody would tell you, I got relatives visiting from out of town, right? And I love math. Math is a hobby of mine. So it comes down to simple numbers, right? You pay $10 a month when you're 20, or you pay $2,000 a month when you're 60, right? So you get it when you're young. Let's just say they're betting that you live. Am I right, Cornell? Life insurance companies are betting that you live.
Absolutely, 1000%.
Yeah. So bet on your living, right? Get it when it's cheap. And hopefully by the time you get 60 and it's $2,000 a month, you'll be able to either have money saved enough to put yourself in the ground, or, have resources where you can plant yourself, right? Because you're not going to get coverage at that time, especially if you got prostate cancer. It is what it is, right? America's capitalist society. It's all good. So you got to find a way to plant yourself in the ground if you want that done, or get cremated, or just disappear in the ocean. That would save everybody money.
Mr. Charlie.
That was humor. Bernard, that was humor.
Yeah, uh, I agree. Is that insurance is very important, and as they said, start getting it while you are young, and also is that you don't want to necessarily uh, I don't know how to necessarily say this, but take out insurance on your parents and things. And that way, it's that, yes, we all know that we are going to pass at some time. And so the insurance that is left over after you bit, then you have something else to rely on.
Absolutely. And I'm going to share this statistic because I think it's important for people to know. The Black community buys more life insurance than any other racial group. Has been like that for almost 100 years.
Why?
Here, here's the flip side. We also buy the lowest amount of life insurance.
Mhm,
So part of that is predatory because people go into our community, they
mhm,
sell us a little bit of life insurance for the most amount of money they can get us to pay. So that is one contributing factor to our wealth gap the way it is. We're not leaving an inheritance of hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're leaving somebody 20,000. Mom passed left us 20,000 between 5 kids. Dad left us 60,000 between 2 wives and 3 kids. And one of the things that I'm trying in my business to educate the community on is that we want to focus on not leaving them enough to bury us, but leaving them enough to improve their quality of life. The mindset can be as long as we got 13,000. Because when you look at the GoFundMe's are $10,000, $8,000. They're begging. How does a man leaving a wife with 3 kids? How does $10,000 help her maintain their quality of life, raise these kids, take them to sports, put them through college, pay off a house, have cars? There isn't. So that was a point that I wanted to bring out in this conversation tonight. And the other thing is, before we go back to the insurance, is that maybe when you all were diagnosed with cancer, you didn't know this, but now there's policies that have what's called living benefits. Living benefits means, I'll give you an example. One of my clients was diagnosed with breast cancer. About 2 years ago. Can you all still hear me? Okay. She was diagnosed with cancer about 2 years ago. We filed a claim for her living benefits part of her policy. She had only had paid for the policy for 4 years. She got a check for $38,000. She got $38,000 out of a policy while she was alive. And what did that allow her to do? It allowed her to focus on healing. It allowed her to focus on getting better. She didn't have to worry about her bills being paid. Now, if she had a $5,000 policy and got $1,000, that wouldn't have done hardly anything. But we're living in a time and age where we're not exercising like we should be. We're not working out. We're eating all the processed foods. We're consuming the sugar. So we have all the bad habits that contribute us to getting these diseases, but we're not doing anything to prevent it. And then we're not saying, hey, well, if I'm not going to change the lifestyle that I'm living, I'm not even willing to put something in place to make sure that my family is okay. And I think what you were saying, Mr. Bernard, again, you're talking about that fear of loss. That's something that we've got to get our community to think about more, because we're leaving more and more women in a bad situation economically because of our fear of getting tested, because we're worried about what they're going to do with the money when they get it, and just not being responsible adults to say, hey, when I leave here, I'm working for them. I need to work for them while I'm gone. So that's all I'm going to say on that point. So here's what I like to say. We've still got about 15 minutes left. Wendell, 2-time cancer survivor. What is it that you would like to share with our audience to encourage people to, especially our men, to go and be tested?
But before that question, if I could take a moment and follow up on what you just said. There are a lot of Black families who it's not the income, like, oh, GoFundMe, bury me. They may be worth $2 million, right? But it's still important for them to get life insurance also. Would you agree?
Absolutely. 1,000%.
Yeah, so it's important for us not to just say, like all of us are begging or poor. We got very rich people, but they need life insurance also. And prostate cancer, what I like about prostate cancer is it doesn't play favorites. Regardless of income, you can get it, okay? So for me, getting checked means regardless of income, regardless of a lot of other issues you may be having, get checked, right? How are you going to know if you don't know, right?
Mhm.
And so an analogy I'll use, okay? Most people drive. What do you do when you get in the car? You put on your seatbelt, right? You say, oh, well, I got the seatbelt on. I paid for it. Let me just crash the car so I can get my money's worth. No. You get your seatbelt on because that's a safety check in case you get into an accident. No different than prostate cancer awareness and your annual physical. You put it on your seatbelt, go in there and say, hey, check my PSA. Well, I'm not showing any symptoms. So if I got it, I'm not going to have that accident, but I got my seatbelt on. That's the best analogy I can give. It's just you get checked, not on anticipate having prostate cancer, but it's a total part of your overall preventive maintenance and health of taking care of yourself. If you don't have any family, if you're the only child living by yourself, you still need to take care of yourself. So focus on you, focus on the people that you love, get checked, and live. Don't just exist, just live. And as far as fear, FEAR, the best way to overcome fear is to take action. And to take action to get your PSA check, get that DRE, which is a stand for digital rectal exam. They should call it digit rectal exam because that's exactly what goes up your butt. They stick a finger up your butt. I'm just calling it like it is, right? But
I
I'd rather
definitely don't want to go.
have 20 seconds of interesting inconvenience than a lifetime of dealing with prostate cancer because I did not get checked early.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm going to share this comment that Dr. Shenita posted. She said, was in my late 20s. So this was probably just a few years ago. My mother encouraged us to take out insurance on her and my dad. And I did not. Look, her mom encouraged her to take policies out of her mom and dad. And here we go back to this word again. And I did not for fear of losing them. So again, this is the third time we're dealing with this word for fear, this word fear, this false evidence appearing real. And we're looking at the long-term effects of what fear can have on us, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, but economically. Mr. Bernard, would you like to share? Yep, you're muted, Mr. Bernard.
Okay, can you hear?
Yes,
Can you
sir.
hear me now? No?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear
Okay,
you.
great. Okay. Uh, Key thing that we have to look at, we got to look at today and we got to look at tomorrow because, the sun's going to shine. Hopefully, we'll be here to see it shine. And if we're here, we're dealing with the now. Again, if you have dependents, you don't want to burden them with a lot of expenses should you pass away unexpectedly, and that can happen. We got to look at that and also understand that if you're burdened with sickness, and that sickness could be caused by a lot of things, bad diet, not being in shape, high stress, a multitude of things, you're going to not be as effective with your ability to earn money. And, you're going to be walking around sick, and more than likely taking drugs and so forth. I mean, legal prescription drugs. So just protect those that you married and made an obligation to bring in this world. And that's all they want. As kids just want their parents to provide them a place to live, to love them, and provide for them. And I'm just saying, don't think that, again, accidents happen, car accidents happen. You may unexpectedly meet your, time of death, but don't forget about those who you're going to leave behind. And best way to do that is to get insurance, and also to educate yourself on the insurance products. Because you mentioned earlier about how a lot of these insurance salespeople would come to these neighborhoods and they would give you a little bit of insurance for a whole lot of money. But if you had known all of your options, you may have gotten a whole lot of insurance for a little bit of money. So it really boils down to being informed. Like I said, again, in the area of prostate cancer, it's important to be informed. Um, Luckily in my case, I went to college with my general practitioner. He and I were both biology majors. So, when I got that first DRE, I said, whoa. And he said, you'll get over it. But it's a necessary thing we have to get done at least once a year. So just remember, the things you do today will make it easier for those you leave behind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, it's I wanted to wait to the end of this conversation. I don't think Shenita even knows this. So I have not had any of these exams done. And one of the reasons when Shenita asked me to host this show, I felt like this was something that I needed to hear. I needed to hear it myself as a young man, 53 years old. You know, I heard that when you turn 50 years old, you should go get the colonoscopy. And I was like, dude, from what I hear, that don't sound fun. I don't want to do that. So now you fast forward 3 years later, and I'm hosting a call with you gentlemen, and we're talking about the importance of it. And I want to say that because of this conversation tonight, because of this dialogue, I am absolutely going to make the arrangements to go get these tests
All
done
right. All
myself.
right.
So
Right.
regardless of who else is watching this, I will not let fear keep me caged into this thing where I can't get to a point where I can't help, I can't stop it, I can't treat it. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, for that. I want to thank Shenita for doing this call together. The other thing I was going to ask you all, you know, we've got people on here that are going to listen to this, they're going to watch it, they're going to make some comments, and then they're going to do nothing. What would you say to maybe create some sense of urgency for what people are hearing tonight for them to take action? Hey, I need to reach out to my doctor. Some people don't even know what doctor to go see. What can we say to them, each one of you all? What can we say to other men like myself that says, hey, I need to get past the fear and I need to move forward with getting this taken care of because my family's life depends on this. My life depends on this. Go ahead, you guys.
I would say, ask the individual, says, close your eyes. Now, I want you to imagine that you have to come home one day. You've been feeling bad for a while, or maybe just feeling fine, and you found out that you had prostate cancer. You know, no warning, no specific warning. Your wife had been telling you and asking you for years, at least do an annual exam, and you never did it. Think about how you would feel that time. Think about not only the impact on you, but the impact on your family, particularly if it's something that could have been maybe addressed earlier when you have more options. So, you know, have somebody think about worst case scenario, what would they feel like, and how would that make their family feel? Hopefully, that will give them, as most strong men, you know, strong men to good sides being a strong man, can understand, all right, I need to just buck up and do this. You know, go ahead and do it. And once it's done, it's done. You know, and we'll have to deal with, you know, the consequences, or it's a, whoo, I thought I had it, but I don't have it. Or, well, I may have it, but I have options. So I always say, think about those around you, the impact it would have if you never got tested for whatever reason, because you were fearful of it, and then you get it, and you got to have that conversation.
Amen. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Charlie.
Yes, I totally agree. And just to add something to it is, as you said, suppose you go in, they tell you you have prostate cancer, but now it's in stage 4 or stage 5. When if you had gotten checked earlier, it might have been in stage 1 or 2. And to add to that, that's what happened to me. I am religious about going in and being checked. For my prostate cancer, got it very early. So all I had to go through was 3 months of radiation treatment. Uh, the nurse that was working with me at the time says I was one of the first black men that she had dealt with that came in with the diagnosis that early. She said most black men that she dealt with were already in stage 4 when they got diagnosed. Uh, Same thing with the breast cancer. I had no symptoms or anything that was going on, but because of my yearly exam, I was doing an MRI for my stomach, and when they did the MRI for my stomach, they noticed a lump in my chest of my breast. Got it early again, radiation treatment for 3 months. So we just keep, as we're all three of us have been saying, we have to just keep talking about it and saying, what is the alternative? Live or die.
That's it. Now, I want to follow up on something, Mr. Charlie. We talked about this earlier. Typically, for most people, if you hear about breast cancer, you automatically assume that it's with the female. But you told me that it is in rare occasions that men also get breast cancer. So, what do you happen to know, you know, how often it is that we get that? So, I'll give you an example. 1 in 8 men over all races gets prostate cancer. 1 in 6 men get prostate cancer. Where we're 2 to 1 more likely to die from prostate cancer than any other races. Would you care to explain just a little bit about the breast cancer and maybe I know you talked about the treatment, but is there a test that somebody would the average person going in to get a checkup for prostate? Should they be checked for something like that, or what would be the protocol for that for someone to think about that and to be tested for it?
The the basic protocol, because I know men are not going to do it. I didn't do it. Is they tell men to check themselves monthly, just as women do. But it is very rare. I was reading, and only about maybe 2,000 men a year get it. And that's what I say. I had no symptoms or anything. It was just based on them checking me out, doing my yearly exam with an MRI. So again, we have discussed tonight to make sure we go in and get checked yearly. That I would say would be the key thing that men need to do.
Amen.
Those
I appreciate that.
yearly exams.
That is huge. That is huge. So, you guys, we've got a few more minutes. Let's do me a favor. I want to let each one of you go by and just share your information where people that have questions. Because here's the thing. Here's what we know. And God brought this to me while we're having this conversation. Any men that watch this broadcast now or later are typically not going to go to their spouses or their girlfriends,
Mhm.
and they're definitely not going to go to one of their homeboys. Would you all agree? That's a reasonable assumption. All right. So if you all don't mind, would you all share some of when I say that as far as like what should I do, where do I go to, who do I call them? Would you all mind just sharing your name and the best way for someone to contact you if they just need to talk to someone about something like this?
Yes,
Bernard, you
Wendell.
go first.
Yeah, sure. Bernard Shaw, SHAW. My phone number is area code 757-339-5669. 757-339-5669. Or if you want to email, silver like the color, SILVER 3188, no, yeah, 3888 at gmail.com. So it's silver 31888 at gmail.com. We got the eights in there for another reason. But anyway, yeah, call me. I used to be a career coach. I used to charge $100 an hour, and nobody complained. Nobody wanted a refund. Thank you, Jesus. So I have no problem talking to you. I don't want any money. If I can help you out, then that helps me.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Wendell.
Wendell Hollins, 404-455-2610. 404-455-2610. Email WHOLLINS135 at gmail.com. WHOLLINS135 at gmail.com. Wendell Hollins. I've talked to men I've never ever physically met in different states just because he referred me to them. Some men start off crying. When they finish with me, I have them laughing. It's a serious subject, but I use humor to get my point across.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Charlie.
Charlie James, CHARLEYJAMES, 404-660-0879. You can call me at any time or text me, and I'll be available.
I appreciate it. And I will introduce myself again. My name is Cornell McBride. I'm actually here in Atlanta, Georgia. My phone number is 404-839-5616. My email address is cmcbride.sfg@gmail.com. And I'm going to leave you all with this. You got to take listening to this information is one thing, but we need everybody that's watching this to share this information. We may have had 20, 40, 50 people that watch this in a month, but we need hundreds of people to receive the information that these gentlemen took their time out to give. And I want to thank my big sister, Shenita Connolly, for not only putting this talk show together, but to allow the men to take over tonight for Prostate Cancer Month, for us to be able to reach out to men in general, but to families about what we can do to help and support our community so that we can be proactive. Like I said, I promise I'm gonna go get tested. I mean, go get checked out. I am not excited about it,
All right.
but I'm excited to get it done so that the next time I see you all, because somebody is gonna say, Cornell, did you? And I'm gonna be able to say yes.
All right.
Behind you. There's
I'm
no
calling
fear.
you next month, brother. I'm calling you next month.
Let's do it. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you, everybody, for your time, for your energy, for your input, for your knowledge, and for sharing it this evening. Everybody have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next month on the 4th Thursday of the month for Life with Shenita, hosted by Miss Shenita Conley. Have a great evening, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care.